All right, look at that. We are live. Hey, everybody, it's the Android Headline Show. Tonight is Thursday, June 11th, so slightly different from, I guess, June 4th, which was last week. We're going to be on episode 110, if you can actually believe that. I think it's a little ridiculous, but, you know, I guess that's linear numbers and all that. Tonight, I'm just joined by Alex from the site. Want to say hi to everybody?
What's up, everybody?
So tonight, we don't necessarily have anything earth-shattering, but there is some pretty decent news. Google is finally giving Hangouts the updates it deserves. It feels like it's been years now since Hangouts got an update. Obviously, that's a slight exaggeration because it just got the 3.0 last year. We're going to look at Dish and T-Mobile might be getting hitched up for good. And, of course, the huge news from Apple in the form of Apple Music. And it's not just Apple Music, but it's actually Apple Music for Android. So those fiery gates are starting to turn a little bit icy, it seems. I don't know what's going on. So go ahead and get started with the Hangouts thing. Since we use Hangouts here, obviously that's kind of a big deal. Hangouts is my main form of communication with a lot of the people that I know and talk with every day. For a long time, I hated using Hangouts, and it's only gotten better over the last, I don't know, year and a half. The new thing that was leaked, I guess it was today and a little bit yesterday, was Hangouts 4.0. So that's going to be the next big update. Basically, big user interface changes. So full material design. Right now it's sort of like half material design. Like you got the tinted status bar, but a lot of the other UI things are just not in line necessarily with a lot of the Google apps. So you have like the action bar on the bottom, and they actually are using it sort of like they do in Inbox, where when you click on it, it gives you, it's like a regular compose button if you're going to send a message to somebody. And then a couple of Hangouts that are, a couple of contacts that are commonly talked to. So just, different suggestions and things like that they're putting in there. They're adding a new action bar at the bottom, which I don't know about you, Alex, but I despise. That's one of those iOS things that I can't stand. And I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to use it to see, 100% how I feel on it. But just looking at the screenshots, it's like, oh, no, please. It's like the one thing I didn't want Google to take from iOS design.
It looks a lot like Facebook Messengers. Well, also WhatsApp, because they do it as well. But, yeah, it looks a lot like Facebook Messenger. We can stop between like pictures and location and emojis and all that other crap.
Yeah, so I guess that's instead of having the little attachments button on the bottom right, they just have that whole bar on the bottom. So yeah. I don't know. It's whatever. I just don't care for the look of it. I'm sure functionally it'll probably be a better thing anyway. They have a big, nice, huge, great looking send button there instead of the one that's off to the side. I don't know. Basically, it seems like a great redesign. Oh, and the one thing I almost forgot. So if you have like chats or something like that, where you have notifications off. Right now on Hangouts, there's this big, nasty-looking, giant red bar at the top that says, notifications are off, please turn them back on, or whatever, and it's horrible. So they're finally getting rid of that. It'll just give you a little toast and say, hey, notifications are off, and then it'll go away, which is basically what the iOS app did, so whatever. And then, of course, the other big news is that Android Wear is getting Hangouts now as well. That's something that has been missing from Wear forever. For whatever reason, on the phone, when you do Google Now, you can tell it, okay, Google will send a Hangouts message, and it'll go through a whole spiel of, who to send it to, what's the message, blah, blah, blah. If you do it on Wear, it just pulls up a Google search, which is, cool. Slightly inconvenient, but whatever.
I wonder about those with Google Voice, like me and probably the rest of our staff that's in the U.S. Will you be able to, take calls on Android Wear like it would going through the regular dialer? Because right now you really can't do much of anything with Google Voice.
Yeah, and it seems like it's not necessarily the full app, but it is an app. It's not just Google Now integration with Hangouts through Wear. It's actually an Android Wear app. So this includes full conversation view. You can swipe through your conversation lists on the watch. You don't have to actually go on your phone to do that. They're even doing where you can draw emoji. I think that's going to be restricted to watches that have Android 5.1 on them.
More likely, because it comes with
most of them. Yeah, I think most of them have it at this point. I think the Moto is the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that had it delayed.
I didn't know any of them outside of the ZenWatch I got in the OTA.
This thing has it.
Because I've only used it on the I've only used it on the Watch Urbane, and that's because it launched with it. So that would be why. Because my other watch is the 360.
Yeah, I've had it on the Gear Live for probably close to a week now. It's definitely an improvement. I'm really liking the design they're going with for the menus and all that kind of stuff. So it's I don't know. It's great to see the Hangout stuff finally get updated. We've had like this third-rate Hangouts for quite some time. It feels like, and it's finally getting up there. So I guess one of the two big pieces of news is Dish and T-Mobile merger. We've seen a bunch of times now T-Mobile is going to get bought by this company, bought by that company, merge with this company. This is the third time we've heard this about Dish and T-Mobile.
We've also heard that Dish has been trying to buy everybody to get into the mobile. Because there was a table that Fierce Wireless had in one of their posts today showing like the spectrum versus how many customers each of the carriers have. Dish has the same amount of spectrum as T-Mobile has, but of course they have 0 customers using that spectrum right now. So if you add, T-Mobile and Dish's spectrum together, they'll have the second most behind Sprint, who has like 33% of the available spectrum right now. And T-Mobile has the second most at 22%. Verizon is, I think, like 19 or something like that. They're actually kind of low. I was kind of surprised at that, considering.
Yeah, that is surprising.
But they had all that 700 megahertz, and then they have, is it 900, I think? Because I know Sprint has 800.
They have the good spectrum, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. Well, they just sold a bunch of the 700 to T-Mobile. Well, maybe not just, because it was like last year. But they sold a bunch of the 700 to T-Mobile. I'm guessing they have the 900 too. I know the 600 is being auctioned off next year. The 800 is Sprint, because they got it from Nextel and couldn't use it for like decades. But yeah, Dish is still trying to get in there.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that stuff, because I know even though it's I guess double the spectrum, a lot of a couple of analysts were saying it's like mid-range spectrum kind of stuff. It's not the lower end, better building penetration type of spectrum that T-Mobile really needs.
Yeah, it's like the mid-range stuff, because Sprint has the stuff that's good for bandwidth. Verizon has the stuff that's good for coverage. Sprint has a lot of the 2 gigahertz, which holds the most bandwidth out of all the spectrum. Like their 2.5 gigahertz spectrum they're putting Spark on, that one holds a whole lot of bandwidth, while like 700 and the 600 don't hold as much bandwidth, but they cover, more areas.
Yeah.
So T-Mobile is stuck in the middle.
Yep. So it also seems like this is being done to kind of combat an industry trend. So you have things like NBC and Comcast, AT&T and DirecTV. Verizon might be doing a video service. I mean, they already have a bunch of stuff anyway that they've been doing. So it makes a lot of sense. All these companies have been bundling their services forever now. You have cable companies that do that with, I've seen local cable companies here partner with Verizon for that stuff. Yeah. So it makes sense in the long run.
You also have Dish with their Sling TV. Well, Sling, and now they have their Sling TV service. They announced that CES, which the numbers that they said that Sling TV has right now, they seem kind of low, but it is still a pretty new service, and I guess switching to cable that way is going to be tougher to get people to switch than Comcast to DirecTV or something like that. I think it's like 250,000, which seems really low to me. Yeah, I like the service. I just wonder if they do something like Music Freedom for it. I think net neutrality is going to slam them.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to. Is it'll be interesting to see if they try to do something with, unlimited data type of stuff or whatever, and how it's going to play out with net neutrality.
Because I forgot Sling TV was actually Dish's thing. I just thought they were their own company for a while.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until recently either, to be honest with you, until all this talk started, and then I realized, oh, geez, okay, it's the same thing.
Yep.
It works. That's smart on their behalf, though, because obviously it's where a lot of this stuff is moving to. Nobody wants to pay $300 for a giant cable package and 900 channels they never watch, So
And right now I'm paying like $20, and I've got pretty much every channel I have I watch. So
yeah, this is where people are moving to. They want certain things, and that's it. They don't want all the crap.
yeah, and you can watch it on your phone, your tablet, you don't have to have a cable box. So you don't have to pay extra for that. It's the only thing is you can't watch it like outside the country.
Yeah.
Well, some countries you can, because when I was in Spain for World Congress, I was able to watch it, but when I'm in China, I can't watch it. So it's that firewall.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure, and that stuff will change over time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It has to grow and get there. But definitely interesting stuff. I know T-Mobile has been growing a lot, and we'll see if this finally breaks them out of the 4th place and gets them over the sprint hurdle, I guess. Because they've been kind of riding that line for a while now.
Well, it's because they got close to Sprint, and then Sprint started gaining customers instead of continuing to lose them. According to Legend, they're number 3, but according to the numbers that I'm seeing, they're still number 4, but not by much. It's like
it's very close.
It's like 290,000 customers or something difference. And actually, according to the table I saw today from Fierce Wireless, AT&T is number 1. I'm not sure if that's completely true, but that's what I saw. They're number 1 by about 3 million customers.
I think that's another one that they have gone back and forth with Verizon over the years. Some months it'll be Verizon, some months it'll be AT&T.
Because AT&T has been like silently, adding a ton of people. You don't hear a lot about AT&T except for when John Legend's making fun of them. Verizon, you hear about them all the time. They're always changing stuff up. But AT&T, not so much. I don't know if it's because, you can bring an unlocked phone to them pretty much now. Because you can, sign up without having to buy one of their phones.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe it's the Nexus 6 or the Nexus 6, experience where you can bring, any phone over to them and put it on their network. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I know a lot of these Chinese phones I review, not a ton of them, but a good number of them don't work right on T-Mobile. Like the MMS doesn't work. The data is only 2G. Sometimes the signal's weird. But if I put in an AT&T SIM card, it usually works. I think every single phone I've ever tried works fine on AT&T.
All the phones I've used on T-Mobile, I can get HSPA, but I can't get LTE. I'd never try MMS because it's always through Hangouts for me. So
that's usually the case on AT&T too. If you can't get LTE on T-Mobile, it's the same with AT&T, at least for the Chinese phones and stuff.
Yeah, because even with the G4, which is Korean, you can only get HSPA, although it shows up as 3G because the rest of the world considers it 3G.
Yeah, because technically it is. Yep. So, Apple Music. This was a big bomb this week. Apple had their yearly Worldwide Developers Conference. We didn't expect a whole lot out of it for us. Obviously, we watch it because we're tech nerds, but
there's nothing else going on.
Sure. Well, that too. We got E3 in a week or whatever, but this week is nothing. So, they showed off iOS 9 and they showed off a bunch of other stuff. The big thing, at least for us again, was Apple Music. So, this is Apple's long-awaited streaming service. Basically, replaces iTunes Radio, which they launched, I believe, last year. Just like it was either last year or the year before, I don't know, but
I can't remember myself.
Yeah, this is kind of completing their integration of Beats since they purchased Beats a while ago. It works just like Google Play Music does in that you're going to have, they touted 30 million songs to stream, which is they're all about the same ballpark of it. They're off just a little bit here and there.
They're all between like 25 and 30, I think, except for maybe Amazon.
Yeah, you pretty much are going to find what you want on one of these services, no problem. So you have 30 million songs you can stream. Anything that's already in your iTunes library in the cloud is going to be available in the same library. So I guess sort of like if you've used Google Play Music out there, you really can't differentiate between what is your music, I guess, and what is streaming music. It's just all there. You just look and there's your albums and it's whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I'm assuming that's what the interface is going to look like, and that's how it's going to handle it. They're going to have this thing called the Beats One radio station. It's hosted by 3 influential DJs around the U.S. It's basically 24/7 live streaming radio station, kind of a pop culture station. So whatever music is popular right now. I guess whatever the DJs feel like playing. But the point is this is a little bit different from your usual internet, Pandora style streaming thing that we've seen from practically everybody in the last handful of years. This is, I guess, back to the original internet radio type of stuff. So when you used to go on Winamp or whatever, I don't know if you ever did that, but you go on Winamp and you load 10 million different stations, and they have a rock station and a rap station and all this stuff, and it's some dude playing CDs or whatever on his computer. So this will be slightly more professional than that, but whatever. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Pricing structure, it's going to be they'll have a free one. So I guess sort of like how Pandora and Spotify do it, where you have commercial supported, you have limited skips, you can only listen to the free version on maybe certain devices or something like that. Of course, you'll get the radio station. And then they're going to have $9.99 for an individual unlimited license. And the really interesting thing that they're doing, and that Spotify is going to be matching, is the $14.99 family plan. So at least with Apple's music streaming service, you're going to get, I believe it was 6 licenses, or was it 5?
6.
I didn't write it down. So
it's 6. But what's interesting about this, and I saw somebody point this out in the comments, is that you can just go ahead and log into Google Play Music on 10 devices and you're fine. But this doesn't, you can log in with 6 different accounts and it'll still be the same Apple Music. I guess it'll still be in the same account. It's the technical term for it. So your kids, your parents, you're gonna all use the same Apple Music, but don't have to share accounts, which I think is better.
So,
especially if you don't have to worry about the authorization.
Correct. And then in that case, would the libraries be the same or different? Do you know?
I think it'll be customized to what you have.
Okay, so it is a separate account then.
Yeah.
Because I know that's
it's just billed all together. Instead of like $9.99 6 times, it's just $14.99 for all 6.
Yep. Yeah, and I know I just have one Google Play Music account. My wife uses it too. And the problem with that is if she wants to listen to it and I want to listen to it, it doesn't work that way. One person listens to it, it kicks the other person off and tells them, hey, you're listening to this on another device. So if this gets around that, and obviously then all 6 people will be able to listen at the same time, that's a serious value that nobody is doing. And I think even Spotify only said 3, didn't they?
I didn't
watch the whole thing.
I didn't even pay attention to what Spotify said.
Yeah, I don't recall. I know Spotify is doing something similar. At least the price is the same. I don't think the licenses were the same though. So this is very, very good. More competition in the market. I mean, $10 alone for unlimited streaming is an insane value anyway. So this only ramps it up.
I don't know if it's really insane because that's what everybody else is charging.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying in general, I personally find it to be a great value. Obviously, that's what everybody charges. Unless you go with Rhapsody or whatever through T-Mobile.
The whole announcement was, pretty much what I expected. And then when I got to the end, when they're like, it's going to be available on iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, Mac, it'll be inside the new iTunes app for Mac and Windows. And then they're like, and coming to Android, my mouth just hit the floor. I did not expect that.
That was totally unexpected.
I expected Windows because I have iTunes on Windows and I've had it there for as long as I can remember. And it's part of iTunes. But when they said Android, it's like, really?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
I think the only thing that'll top that is if it's material design and doesn't or doesn't look like an iOS app.
I wouldn't count on that, but it would be funny.
iTunes on Windows looks just like it does on Mac, so
yes. Yeah, they've got their own thing, and I don't think they have any plans to change it. So that'll be available in the fall. So I guess September, October timeframe. There is a 90-day trial for the full version of the streaming. I know there've been some rumors that won't apply to the Android version, so we're gonna have to see when the Android version comes out if that's true. But anybody out there who has a PC or a Mac or any iOS device, once it's in days or weeks, you're gonna have a 90-day free trial, and you might as well try it because it's free.
But
So
that
it's,
means
I
I
don't
have
know.
to open up iTunes, and I haven't done that since I bought this computer over a year ago.
Yeah, I have a real interface problem with iTunes. It's the same reason I use
It's
Spotify. I just
it,
can't. I can't deal
it's
with it.
it's pre-installed, obviously, because it's a MacBook, and it only opens up when I download the audio for the podcast just to make sure it's working right. After that, I even decline the terms of service usually,
Yep.
just so it'll go away.
Yeah. So I guess besides the licensing, as far as comparing it to Google Play Music, it seems like they might have better recommendation stuff. So they recommend you
Yeah.
actual playlists and things like that. And then they're doing some kind of interesting social media type of thing where artists can chat with
Yeah.
listeners and things like that.
That I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Up and coming artists, they can chat with their listeners, or it's basically having Twitter built into a music app.
Yeah, it's
Artists
interesting.
get straight to their listeners, but it also gives the artists so much. I can't even think of the word, but it gets their music out there to more and more people than just standing on the street in San Francisco selling CDs. I mean, who does
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a cool thing that they're doing. I like a lot of the stuff they're doing. This is definitely a new step for Apple in my eyes because I don't know. Usually, I'm not a big fan of their stuff. As
the whole keynote was pretty surprising. The iOS 9, I didn't really pay attention to it that much. I wasn't in the room most of the time, but the OS 6 El Capitan, obviously I paid attention to that because I have a MacBook.
Sure.
And then the music stuff, it's just like Apple's really changing it around. You can tell this is like Tim Cook's company now instead of Steve Jobs.
Yeah, it absolutely
is. You could tell that last year anyways with the bigger iPhones because Steve Jobs would have never done that.
Yep. Yeah, and this year they got multi-window and all that stuff on the iPad, so it's again, we've had this crap on Android forever, but it's
you've had it on Samsung.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Only works with like 10 apps unless you root it.
Yeah, it's been available in some form on Android, regardless of whatever the feature is, and even like the multitasking window, they basically took lollipops and put it sideways.
At least with Apple, it looks like all apps will be compatible. With Samsung, it's like just their apps, some Google apps, and some that developers decided to support multi-window for.
Yep, which unless you root it and get a mod for it, you're stuck. It's stupid. I never understood that anyway. It's goofy.
I don't know why I don't know if it's APIs or what's going on, why it's like that, but
it's
I need to change that.
Yeah, and all does not seem to be rosy necessarily with how Apple got the pricing, because the New York Attorney General is looking into possible backroom deals and maybe Apple forcing record labels to prioritize Apple services over like Spotify and Google Play Music and.
There's one where they said they tried to get Universal not to put their music on YouTube, and that they would pay the royalties that they would lose by not putting it on YouTube.
Yep.
It's like Apple has the money to do that. I mean, they're sitting on like $1 trillion in cash.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
I mean, they could just buy all the record labels themselves and put them in their Cupertino headquarters.
Yeah. So that's certainly interesting. I don't think we've heard anything like that necessarily outside of Apple before. So we'll see how that pans out and what effect that even has if they find out that something has been going on fishy.
Yeah, Apple will probably pay them off.
I'm sure something funny will happen if it's already going on, right? So speaking of fishy business, we have Blackberry apparently making an Android device, which I don't really know how I feel about that. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a surprise given their movement in the last 2 years or whatever. I think since what was it, BlackBerry OS 10 was the one that supported some Android apps.
I don't know. It was one of them. They basically were doing.
I lost track after a while.
They were using a virtual machine to run pretty much anything on Android. The Play Store is there and everything. So, they had to have gotten approved by Google somehow because you can't just throw on Google Play services like that.
Correct.
You have to sign the Google Mobile Services, I think, GMS. Yep. And now it's like, it's just a step further. But there's people on Android that they want that physical QWERTY keyboard. They want that Blackberry, but they don't want to go back to the platform because nobody's using it. I think they have like 2.3% market share right now.
Yeah,
still might be more than Windows Phone, but
yeah, I think it is. Whatever.
So it's like, if they can get, like their iconic Blackberry, with Android, with Google Play services, all that good stuff in there, I think some people will buy it. I won't be one of them because I was never really a Blackberry fan. I had one.
Yeah.
It was trash, but had to pull the battery like every few hours. Not going back to that. But yeah, I mean, it's better than just sticking with, Blackberry 10 because obviously people don't want it.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a market for it because honestly, when was the last time you saw a decent Android device that had a QWERTY keyboard? I honestly don't even know. If you can find one with a QWERTY keyboard, which I don't even think they're made anymore, it's probably a crap device.
LG has one on T-Mobile. I think it came out almost a year ago now, like the F3Q, I think it is. But it's not like, the Blackberry where you have the QWERTY keyboard here. You have to slide it out, so you're typing it like this.
Okay, it's one of those. It's like the first Android phone I had.
Yeah, it's like the original Droid.
Yep.
Or even the G1, that too. But yeah, people want the physical keyboard. I mean,
yeah. You want the flexibility of being able to change it out with other ones if you want, or just whatever. Getting rid of that bulk and that extra space.
Yeah.
So I think the last big thing that we have is net neutrality will be officially kicking off tomorrow in the U.S. Basically, all the attempts to block it by the ISPs have been thwarted, and they did not get a stay. So it seems like stuff is going to hit the fan tomorrow. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of crazy tweets are going to go out and end of the world scenarios and this and that and the other thing, and what actually comes of it. Is this Y2K over again, or is this something legitimate? I guess we'll find out.
Fireworks will happen tomorrow.
Fireworks will happen. Maybe that's why people are shooting off fireworks today. That would make a lot of sense.
Could be.
So, that about wrap it up for the night?
Yep, that should be about it.
Very good. I hope everybody out there enjoyed the show. As always, you can check us out on Instagram and Twitter as Android Headline without the S. And, of course, on Google+, Facebook, and Pinterest with the S. So that would be Android Headlines. And I hope everybody has a great night. We'll see you next week.
See you everybody next week.